During this past week Thursday night matchup against the Los Angeles Rams, the Minnesota Vikings lost their starting left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, arguably one of the best tackles in the National Football League, for, well, the remainder of the season, tore his ACL, tore his MCL. So it's pretty brutal, right? So now we have to have David Quessenberry step up in his place and hopefully play some good ball down the stretch, which should be okay. But at the same time, that is the blind side you're protecting of Sam Darnold, where last year David Quessenberry had to take over for an injured Brian O'Neill and did okay, but that was on the right side of the offensive line where the quarterback at least has a little bit more awareness of what's happening or what's coming off the edge, where behind him, obviously, not so much. You don't have eyes in the back of your head. So the Minnesota Vikings, before the trade deadline, have to look at potentially trading for an offensive tackle, a left tackle, to be exact, right? We need some help over there. Now, at first, I was like, there's no way trading for a left tackle would make any sense, right? We just paid Christian Darrisaw a buttload of money. I think it was like 4 years, $105 million contract. I mean, the dude got paid this offseason, and to lose him right now just absolutely sucks. So trading for me was kind of just off the table, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I think the Vikings should take a look at some of the, talent around the league, especially one, Cam Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I had to go make sure that he wasn't a starter on their team. Yes, he has a decent sized contract. I believe it was a 2 year. If I go look at it real quick, it was a 2 year contract, or 3 year, $54 million. So I think he's owed, we're going to get into a little bit more of the contract later on in this video, but I think he's owed like 16 million, something around there this season, but he's currently the Jaguars backup, and we could make this work. It still wouldn't make a ton of sense, but he is a soon to become free agent at the end of this season. So I think he's on his last year of his contract, which would make it even more of a possibility to go out and trade for Cam Robinson. Plus, I'm assuming we wouldn't have to give up much, being that he is a backup and he has been a starter in this league. He has been a proven starter. Obviously not at this, moment in time. He is their backup at left tackle, but it is definitely one of the suitors. So let's get right into it. Before we do, if you want one of these backlit LED 3D Minnesota Viking logos, feel free to hit the link in the description down below and use promo code VS30 for $30 off your purchase. So let's get right into it. Trading for Cam Robinson. And as the Vikings ponder their options for how to replace star left tackle Christian Darrisaw, there's one name that makes the most sense. Okay, and this is per Will Regatz on Sports Illustrated for the Minnesota Vikings. He said Cam Robinson. Robinson checks a ton of boxes. The Jaguars' left tackle is a proven starter. He's on a bad team, and he's in the final year of his contract. Now, on Sunday, he cleared concussion protocol and was active, but was left on the bench in favor of younger tackle Walker Little, which may be an indication that Jacksonville is prepared to trade him if it receives a satisfactory offer. Now, previously, Robinson had started all 94 games where he was healthy since being drafted 34th overall by the Jaguars in 2017. So just because they have this younger guy at left tackle, maybe they want to move on from Robinson and the contract, especially since that he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Why not just get rid of him at this point in time? Now, last year, Robinson's pass blocking grade was 16th out of the 70 tackles who played at least 500 snaps in the regular season. Now, he's like if Dalton Risner played tackle, but a little better than that, okay, if that makes any sense. Now, he's been playing well recently, too, bouncing back from a poor Week 3 game against the Bills by allowing just 2 total pressures between Weeks 4 and 6 before suffering that concussion. The question is, what it would take for Vikings GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah to get a deal done with the Jaguars and Trent Baalke, which is their GM currently. Now, who he knows from their time together in the 49ers front office. The key here is that Robinson's contract makes it theoretically possible that the Vikings could acquire him for just a day 3 pick, depending on how much of his salary they are willing to take on. Robinson currently has $16.25 million base salary this season in the final year of his contract. When you prorate that with 10 weeks to go, he's still owed a little bit over $9 million for the rest of the season, or around 8.1 if traded after this Sunday, but before Tuesday's deadline. So if we wait till after the Sunday's matchup, he's owed just a little bit less for the rest of the season. Now, according to Over the Cap, the Vikings are around $9.5 million under the salary cap right now. That means they'd likely need to create a little bit of space to take on Robinson's deal and still have some breathing room. Now, if the Vikings were to take on all of that $9 million or so, they might be able to get Robinson for just a 5th or a 6th round pick, which seems a little bit, sort of ideal, right? Now, to do that, they'd have to free up space, likely via a restructure or an extension elsewhere on the roster. They could also potentially see if the Jaguars have interest in a young player like Brian Asamoah or a Caleb Evans and clear around $1 to $1.2 million in space that way. So Brian Asamoah was, one of those people we were looking at earlier this offseason as, hey, the Vikings could end up trading him away to maybe get something in return, maybe a corner, maybe extra draft pick, something like that. It'd be obviously be a late round draft pick, but getting him or trading him away could obviously clear some cap space and help us be able to get Cam Robinson. Now, the other possibility is that Jacksonville could eat some of the money to facilitate a trade and get a better pick back as a result. So they eat some money, trade Cam Robinson, and get a better draft pick in return. That could be enticing to Jacksonville. Maybe that's a 4th rounder in 2026 or something along those lines. The Vikings only have their 1st rounder and 2 5ths in next year's draft at the moment. That's all we can trade away, a 1st round and 2 5ths. So we don't really have a lot of wiggle room here. Like, if we're going to trade for somebody, it's going to have to be a person and maybe a late round draft pick and hope that the Jacksonville Jaguars or some team just eats the majority or some of that money that certain player is owed. Now, there will be plenty of details to work out, but on paper, the Vikings trading for Robinson makes a lot of sense. He's a pure rental who could hold down the fort for a contending team for the rest of the season. Because of his contract, he wouldn't cost a lot in terms of draft pick compensation, and his track record is such that he'd clearly bring a much higher floor to an important position that any of the Vikings in-house options to replace Darisaw would, right? We're looking at David Quessenberry, Blake Brandel, and Walter Ross. Blake Brandel, okay, he already plays left guard. He ain't going to be taking that spot. David Quessenberry came in when Darisaw went out in that Rams game, played okay. Sam Darnold did get smoked a couple times, but he'd be the option. Walter Rouse, I think he was a rookie this year in the 7th round or something like that, later round pick. He could step in there, but he's a rookie. How well is he going to be able to perform against the top pass rushers in the National Football League when we still have to go against, some top tier edge rushers, right? You look around the league. If I'm an opposing team, I'm putting my best pass rusher on the left side, plain and simple, especially now that Darisaw is gone. Okay. But if we add Cam Robinson to the mix, it's like, okay, maybe we don't try to bull rush the left tackle, even though they still potentially would at least try to target that, because Brian O'Neill on the right side is an absolute freak of nature. He's been really good for us for many years at this point. I think he's the longest tenured player on the Vikings roster. It's either him or Harrison Smith, one of the two. But we have some decisions to make, and one of them should be at left tackle. Will the Vikings make a move? I'm not sure. Will they trade for somebody? Maybe. I'd say it's less likely that they trade for someone as compared to go sign somebody out for free agency or just roll with what we have at the depth chart currently for the rest of the season. But Cam Robinson is an option. Do the Minnesota Vikings go make a trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars to bring over left tackle Cam Robinson? You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It'd be much, much appreciated. Have a great rest of the night, folks, and Skol Vikes.